Welcome, kiddies, to another edition of Creepshow. Today we will be taking a look at the NECA Creepshow Creep figure. Now, this is a figure I was very excited to get my hands on because Creepshow is one of my all-time favorite films for sure. And while this design is based a little more on the new TV show versus the original George Romero movie, I think he still retains a lot of the elements that make this guy what he is. Plus, I really did enjoy the TV show. I know it's hit or miss for some people, but I really liked it. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at this guy. The Creep comes with two main accessories. On the right, we can see his lantern, and on the left, we have a little teeny tiny Creepshow comic book. The lantern is really nicely detailed. We have kind of a translucent greenish yellow lamp part there in the middle, and the rest of it kind of looks like it might be cast iron, but it has a little bit of like a rusty texture to it. So it looks really nice, especially for the size of it. It does have the handle here at the top. Unfortunately, it does not hinge or anything. I think that would have really put this one over the top. I mean, I guess having an actual light you could put in there would really put this over the top. But having a foldable handle on here like Mezco did with their Nosferatu lamp, I think that really would have set this over the top just in terms of displayability, so that if you do have the Creep sitting somewhere, you could have the lantern looking a little more static instead of always having the handle pointing up. For as small as it is, the comic book looks amazing. You could read all the text there on the front, which is really cool. You get the picture of the Creep there on the front. On the back, we have some back issues listed, and I don't think my camera's good enough to focus on this. I think it is actually some of the other episodes from the TV show. And then inside, we actually get one of the comics from the show, The Finger. Yeah, I mean, a lot of great detail, just way too small for my camera to actually show accurately. It's just the 2 pages on the inside, but for something this small, this is more than enough. The Creeper does come with an alternate hand that allows him to hold the lantern. However, because the hand is kind of rubbery, if you're not careful, it could kind of tend to slip out of his grasp, but if you pose him just right, he'll hold it okay. And I missed an accessory. He actually does also come with this skull here. I threw it on the shelf in the background and totally forgot it existed, but it is nicely detailed. It has a nice bone color. There's some kind of shading around the cracks and joints, like the nose and teeth and everything. It does actually look like it has a peg hole at the bottom, so I think you could pop this on a head somewhere if you really wanted to. But yeah, it looks cool. I like that it's missing the teeth in the front, that it's all gross and grimy, it doesn't have a lower jaw. Overall, I think this looks really nice, except I think that's a little molding error right there at the top, but that's not that bad. I mean, it's a skull and it's dirty. It could look a little messed up, but yeah, a little extra accessory there to throw in your display. The Creeper figure itself is really nicely detailed. I was thrown off by the packaging of this figure because he's packaged like a lot of the retro cloth figures. Obviously, you can see he does have a cloth robe on here, but the figure itself is built more like and kind of more in scale with the traditional 7-inch scale figures. So it's kind of like a weird misfit figure. So I guess first we should talk about his robe here. It looks really good. Obviously, any figure of this size, when you're going to do cloth goods, there's just some limitations. Stitching tends to look big because it has to be big because it's impossible to get that tiny of stitches as far as I'm aware. But it's nicely weathered. It kind of is like an off-white and they add these like brown bits to it to give it that grimy feel. It's tattered and torn around the bottom and the wrists, and they actually run a bendy wire up through the top here, and I think it goes down, yeah, it goes down into the little back end of his cap, so you could actually get some posability there. My only complaint with this is there is a little bit of a, I don't know if it's part of the metal rod or a staple or something sticking out of the back of his cap, so it does kind of ruin the illusion a little bit there, but it's not terrible. And if we turn him fully around, you can get a little better look at the detailing there on the back. Pretty much the same idea. One thing I do dislike are these little ribbons coming down off there. I think these would have been better if they were like strings or something. The fact that they're ribbons and they're not really dirtied up and they kind of have a tendency to defy gravity a little bit makes them feel a little cheaper than I'd like it to be. So I think if you got like some brown cord or something on there instead, it would look much better, but it's not too bad, really. I think they did a really good job with the head sculpt here. The flesh is kind of like an off brown, like a muddy brown, and there's some kind of purple bits where it's torn up and chewed up. The eyes are really clean on here. They're kind of bright yellow, and I don't know, this seems like a thing where it would have been really easy to have wonky eyes, but at least mine look fantastic. We can see he does have quote-unquote real hair here, so it's actually like soft, pliable hair, which I think is necessary with the way the hood fits on this, but as you can see, it does have a tendency to kind of get into his face, especially when you go to like turn the head or something. Everything does tend to bunch up a bit and go out of focus apparently, so the hair will get like right in his mouth, and then you can, of course, adjust the hood because of that bendy wire in there. But it is one of those things to keep in mind that you'll have to do a lot of messing around with this figure to get him into various poses. If we pull back the head, we do see the head is fully sculpted and painted. The hair is just kind of glued on the top there, so it's a little bit messy looking, so I don't really know if it's supposed to be seen without the hood. But you can see the back of his head is still painted. We also do have some great detailing around his mouth and teeth. They look sufficiently grimy and gross. And if we peel back the robe a little bit here, we can see that he is sculpted fully. So the entire body underneath there is sculpted. It's not one of those blank bodies like we've gotten a lot of times with these retro figures or with the actual retro figures, and not this one. So that is a major plus to me. To show that off a little more, I'll pull up his sleeve here, and you can see once again fully sculpted, fully painted up the length of that arm. I like the big gaping wounds on there, like the big purple like craters in his arm. Looks really good, and stuff that for the most part is not going to be seen unless you do this, which I don't know why you'd be doing this, for the most part at least. The only option we have for his right hand is this open hand. It is nicely detailed. He's got some gnarly fingernails on there. If we flip it around to the palm, you see the detail carries over there as well. He does have a matching option for his left side, so it's basically the same idea with the open hand. And then as I mentioned with the lantern, he does have that gripping hand, so it's more not fisted, but a loose grip. So there you can see the same kind of good detail on there, and it is a bit rubbery, so it's not like the firmest grip, but it also helps if you're trying to get the comic book in there or the lantern, that it's going to return to its normal pose instead of being like stretched out or anything like a hard plastic would. And then if we pull up the bottom of his robe, which seems really disgusting, we do get a lot more great detail there on his legs, matching what you see in the arms, the big wounds and the same paint scheme. Really cool looking. Flip him around, you see kind of the same deal going on there. Got some creeper ass, and his feet kind of blend in with my diorama here, but yeah, some gross creeper feet, painted nails, all that good stuff. The articulation on this figure really impressed me. We do have a ball joint at the head, so you can go side to side, up pretty far, and then down, pretty much putting his chin to his chest. You can also pivot. As I mentioned before, the motion isn't necessarily hindered by his hood, but if you turn it extreme angles, you just have to adjust the wire in your hood to get it to match the shape of his head or the direction of his head. Shoulders will go forward pretty far. It is, of course, limited because of the cloth clothing. And they'll go back. This isn't the extremes of it. I just don't want to risk ripping anything here. So it will move further than I'm showing here. Probably would do a full 360 if you're really careful with it. They will also go out to the side about 90 degrees from the body, and they'll tuck into the body pretty much flat. And I'll pull up his sleeve again to show that he does have double jointed elbows in here, which are really cool. So great range of motion there. We could also swivel at the upper end of that, and all the wrist options will allow for rotation as well as hinge up and down. We have a mid-torso ball joint, so he'll crunch forward an okay amount. It's not a ton, but it's not like a super dynamic character anyway. Doesn't really seem to go back much. He kind of straightens up his back. And then we can rotate side to side there, as well as pivot just a little bit. I don't think there's any waist joint in here, but I think the upper torso joint is more than enough. The legs are an area where I've had some issues because they do tend to pop out of the ball joint on here, but they've popped right back in every time so far, so that's not a big deal to me. But they will kick pretty far forward. Of course, you are limited by the skirt, but if the skirt or the robe wasn't there, you'd get more range. They'll also go back. They will go out to the side, limited by the clothing more than the figure. You can rotate at the upper leg. We just got a single jointed knee here, but it bends not quite 90 degrees, but pretty close, so not too shabby. And then it will also rotate at the knee. And then the big thing I was really excited to find on this figure, the ankles are hinged up and down, and they also have ankle pivot on them, so you can get the creeper into some more dynamic poses. It also does have peg holes at the bottom of the feet. For a size comparison, here's the creeper next to a 7-inch scale Jason Voorhees figure and a retro cloth style Dr. Burt Wiest. And you can see he scales much better with Jason than he does with Herbert. So overall, I am really happy with this figure. I was kind of expecting something a little more basic, and NECA actually really gave us a pretty complete feeling figure here. It has really good articulation. Being fully sculpted was a complete surprise to me, but a very welcome one. I think the cloth goods here are decent. They could be upgraded just a little bit, but they're not bad for what they are. I absolutely love the Creepshow comic accessory. The lamp I think is a decent accessory as well, and I hope this isn't the last Creepshow figure we get from NECA. I don't know if the franchise has enough popularity for them to justify some things, because sometimes it seems like if it's not Pennywise, they are more reluctant to do it. But I would love to get characters like Fluffy the Crate Beast, Chief Woodenhead, the Hitchhiker, Zombie Nate. I think there's a lot of cool characters from just the original 2 movies and the TV show. We're not going to talk about that 3rd one because that movie sucks. And I know the 2nd season, and as of doing this, an animated special of Creepshow, the TV series, is on the way. So I really hope this continues on. And the thing I'm curious about is that NECA does love to do their retooling and reusing of pieces they sculpt. So I'm trying to figure out what this body could be otherwise. At first I thought it might be one of those hell spawns from the Evil Dead line, but it definitely doesn't seem to have those proportions. Those are really tall and lanky. So I'm not sure what this is or could be in the future. The only thing I could see clearly that I don't think they're gonna do would be the creature from Night of the Creeps. But I mean, give this guy a new head sculpt, a straight jacket, and a fireman's axe, maybe some slugs. You have a pretty cool Night of the Creeps figure. But yeah, highly recommend this guy. I got mine at my local comic shop. I'm not sure if this is going to be one of the ones carried at Target. It seems like it's hit or miss for some of these lately. But yeah, if you're into Creepshow, definitely pick it up. Hopefully NECA will decide to do more because I want some more of this. Alright, so that's it for today, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.